Okay guys, here we go with our lesson today, solving multiplication equations. Okay, we have two learning targets today. Make sure you write these down. First learning target is students will be able to demonstrate solving multiplication equations. And then the second learning target is students will be able to write equivalent multiplication equations. So this is the same learning targets we've been doing. You have to be able to solve these equations, and then also you have to be able to write other equivalent equations that match what we're doing in our problems. Okay, I'm going to move on. If you need to pause, go ahead. In our first example here, solving multiplication equations, I want you to tell me what you need to do to solve the equation. I'm going to start with a little bit simpler problem. Okay, I want to go back to my modeling. Remember we modeled, let's say I gave you the problem 5x equals 10. And I asked you to model that. Well, with the 5x, you wrote out 5 rectangles. Okay, and then what did we do with the 10? Well, I told you with the 10, you can't just put them anywhere. You had to distribute them evenly among the 5 x's that you have. So when I distribute things evenly, what I do is I divide them evenly, that divide being a key word, and when I divide them evenly, I ended up with 2 for each one. I had 10 squares, I had 5 rectangles, so to divide them or evenly spread them out, I had to divide the 10 by the 5. So to find my answer, which is 2, I took my 10, the number of squares I had, and divided it by my 5. So to answer my multiplication equations, I am going to divide. So what do I do to solve this problem? Well, if it's 5x equals 75, I'm going to do the opposite of multiplying, which is what this stands for. 5x is multiplication. I'm going to divide 5 to both sides. And that is how I'm going to solve it. Okay, if you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to go on to the next example. In my next example, I am multiplying. Again, this stands for multiplication. Okay, I am multiplying 4.2 times x. Okay, so there's my variable. I want to get it by itself. So the inverse of multiplying is to divide. So to solve this problem, I'm going to divide 4.2 to both sides. And that is how I solve my problems. Okay? So when you have a multiplication problem, which is usually set up without a multiplication symbol, it's just going to be the number and then the variable. Okay? The number is called the coefficient. And then you get a variable. You're going to divide both sides by the number you're multiplying to the variable. That's how you're going to solve them. Okay? I'm going to go to the next screen. If you need to pause, go ahead. In example 2 here, I want you to write the equivalent multiplication equation, which means I want you to solve it. You're going to have to show your work to solve these. You have to show your work to both sides, remember. Okay, so this is a multiplication problem. I'm doing 14 times x equals 105. So to solve it, I'm going to divide both sides by 14. Here's the key. You must show your division using fraction bars. Okay, I don't want to see it the other way. You must show it this way. You must use fraction bars. Okay, fraction bars mean division. So I'm going to divide both sides by the number with the variable, which is 14. Okay, 14 divided by 14 is 1, so you're just left with x equals 105 divided by 14 is 7.5. So I'm going to put 7.5. And that is how you solve them. Again, you must use fraction bars. Okay, I don't want to see this symbol. Alright, I want to see fraction bars to solve them. Okay, got to show it to both sides, and then you get x equals. That's how you write the equivalent equation for these. Okay, I'm going to move on to example B. If you need to pause, go ahead. In example B, again, we have a multiplication problem. 5.7x equals 28.5. So to divide our multiplication problem, we're going to divide. Again, I'm going to show it with a fraction bar. Must show it with a fraction bar. Divide both sides by 5.7. Okay. When I divide them, that equals 1, so that gives me x equals, I divide 28.5 divided by 5.7, and my answer is 5. And that is how you solve multiplication equations. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and move on to my next example. If you need to pause, go ahead. Excuse me. In example 3 here, I want you to create an equation, an equivalent multiplication equation. So in order to create, I first have to figure out what x equals. So when I want to figure out what x equals, again, I'm going to divide both sides by 9, and that's going to tell me that x equals 6. Okay, that's not my answer. I just need to find that to use it to find my answer. Okay, I'm going to give you two ways that you can write equivalent multiplication problems. And the whole time I want x to equal 6. So my first example, I'm going to do, let's put in 4. 4 times x. So 4x equals, what does this number need to be right here? Well, remember, x is 6, so think about 4 times 6. What is 4 times 6? Oh, that answer needs to be 24. So 4x equals 24 is going to be my equivalent equation. Let me give you another example. Let's say I give you 7x. 7 times x, remember, x equals 6. So what is 7 times 6? That is 42. So that's what I'm going to have. It's my equivalent equation. 7x equals 42. So there's just two samples. There's an infinite amount of samples you can have. The key is that whatever equation you use, x equals 6. And that it is a multiplication equation, not an addition or subtraction equation. Okay, if you need to pause, go ahead. I'm going to go on to my last example. Good. Again, we have another one here of creating an equivalent multiplication equation. So I'm going to divide both sides by 11. Alright, that's how I'm going to solve it. And I'm going to do that. I get x equals 13. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give you two examples again, okay, of what you can do. So let's say for the first one, you pick any number you want. I like to keep them low so I can do them pretty easily. So I'm going to do 3x. Okay, 3 times x equals, well, x, remember, is 13. Okay, so 3 times 13 is 39. So I get 3x equals 39. Okay, let's try another one. I'm going to pick 5. Alright, so I'm going to do 5x. 5 times x, remember, x is 13. So 5 times 13 is 65. So that would be my answer. 5x equals 65. You can always check your answers by dividing both sides by the number in front of the variable, okay, which is called the coefficient. Again, we'll go over that more later. Okay, and that is how you solve multiplication equations. Have a great night, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.